From royal courts to spiritual awakening. The extraordinary story of the Ethiopian eunuch, a high-ranking official who traded power for a higher purpose. With a heart hungry for truth, he embarked on a journey that would change his life forever. What sparked his transformation, and how did his encounter with Philip, a brave and faithful disciple, shape his destiny? Join us as we explore the inspiring story of the Ethiopian eunuch and discover the powerful lessons that can be applied to our own lives. From the importance of seeking truth to the transformative power of faith, this story is a testament to the boundless grace and love of God. Subscribe to our channel for more thought-provoking videos on the Bible, and share this video with your friends and family to spark important conversations about faith, purpose, and the impact of one person's courage. Let's dive into the captivating story of the Ethiopian eunuch together and be inspired by his remarkable journey to spiritual awakening. The Ethiopian eunuch's story starts out with an angel of the Lord telling Philip to travel along the desert road that goes from Jerusalem to Gaza. Philip was an evangelist in the first-century church, and he was also one of 7 deacons that was appointed to help care for the widows in Acts 6 verses 1-7. It was on this desert road that Philip meets our favorite, holy-hearted guy, the Ethiopian eunuch. If you read verses 27 through 29, you get a quick glimpse about this Ethiopian eunuch. He was in charge of the treasury for the queen of the Ethiopians, he was reading the book of Isaiah, and he was on his way back from Jerusalem. If we believe that the Bible is the inspired word of God, then that means that these minor details are in the Bible for a reason. And if you dig deeper, it actually tells you a lot about this man's character. So let's go deeper into what the scriptures say about the Ethiopian eunuch. A lot of people don't actually know what a eunuch is, but just so you don't have to Google it, a eunuch is a man that has been castrated to serve a specific role. Talk about being dedicated to your job. In this case, the Ethiopian eunuch was a eunuch because he was working closely with the queen, and there was to be no funny business between the two. It's easy to gloss over the fact that this man had become a eunuch for the purpose of serving the queen, but this is actually one of the first clues we get about his character. This man was wholehearted in whatever he did. He was committed. To become a eunuch for the sake of a job was probably not something this man took lightly. By becoming a eunuch, he removed any possibility of having his own children, and he was committing his life to serving the queen. This shows that the eunuch was the type of guy who would give his whole heart to something. If he was willing to give his whole heart to his job, surely he could give his whole heart to God. The scriptures say that the Ethiopian eunuch was an important official in charge of all the treasury of the Kandake. And if you're using the 1984 NIV, it says, in charge of all the treasury of Candace, queen of the Ethiopians. Basically, this man wasn't just some basic guy. He had access to some of the most influential people in his country. This seems minor, but if you did an initial full reading of Acts 8 verses 26-39, you know that the Ethiopian eunuch ended up being taught the true gospel message, and he responded to that message by becoming a true Christian and getting baptized. We'll talk about this more later, but what does that have to do with him being a treasurer? Well, Ethiopia is a predominantly Christian country, and I'd like to think that the person who started it all was this Ethiopian eunuch. Perhaps he used his influence to convert many high-ranking officials to the true gospel message, and those influential people went on to convert others. Having the book of Isaiah back in those days meant that you had a handwritten scroll with the scriptures on it. There was no printing press, so it's not like this eunuch had a literal leather-bound book that he was reading. Instead, he was reading something that was hand-written on some type of natural material. Whatever the material was, we can assume it probably cost a lot of money. But that's actually the benefit of the job that the eunuch had. It provided him with access to resources that an average person just didn't have. So obtaining his own personal copy of the book of Isaiah was definitely one of those perks. It shows that this man was truly seeking after God and wanted to get his life together, so much so that he was willing to spend big money for access to the scriptures. The end of verse 27 says that the Ethiopian eunuch had gone to Jerusalem to worship and was now on his way home. This actually gives us the biggest clue as to how devoted this guy was. A round-trip journey from Ethiopia to Jerusalem is far when you have to go by chariot. I struggle to take straight flights from the East Coast to the West Coast. I can't imagine trying to do that by chariot. This eunuch was so wholehearted in his devotion that he was willing to take off work and travel 1,600 miles one way just to go to Jerusalem to worship. A round-trip journey from Ethiopia to Jerusalem is far when you can't even go inside the temple. That's right, according to Deuteronomy 23 verse 1, eunuchs were not allowed to worship inside the temple. So this eunuch traveled a round trip of 3,200 miles just to stand outside the temple to worship. A round-trip journey from Ethiopia to Jerusalem is far when you have to take months off from work. With how long this journey was going to be, the eunuch probably had to take months off from work. Who knows what that actually looked like back then? But the fact that he was willing to do that says a lot about his heart. Who knows if he had to train someone to fulfill his duties while he was out, or if he would even have a job when he got back. I'm sure there was some risk involved in taking off that long just to go worship, but the eunuch was willing to take that risk. Despite all of the hurdles, the eunuch made it a point to go to the temple to worship in person. He undoubtedly had a very devoted and dedicated heart that was seeking after a true relationship with God.